Hello and welcome to HCD community meeting. Today is June 13, and we have two topics. One is from Andre, so feel free, Andre, to take the stand.
Hello. I opened just issue 1 day ago, and it's just a question about disk performance. We have a slow SSD disk, and I want to confirm how bad is it if our fsync is 10 milliseconds. In FAQ, it said that 10 milliseconds it should be less than 10 for wall fsync, and we have exactly this value. The same for commit to database, it must be 25, and we have less than. Just want to know, maybe there are some experience which you can share. How critical is it, or we can survive? Sorry for such questions. Maybe this meeting is supposed to ask some other questions.
Anyone want to share the experience?
If you open a link, there will be some numbers, and it will be much easier to understand what I asked. Yeah, I just made a lot of screenshots.
I mean, part of this comes down to what do you need? I mean, if you're pushing one update to etcd per minute, then this is clearly not going to be a problem for you. If you're pushing a million updates to etcd per minute, then it probably will.
Yeah, that's a good question, because in before in old ADCD there was a metric HTTP request something, and in 3.4 there is no such metric, right? What is the best one to check?
So, assuming that you switch to like latest releases, we switched totally
3.4.
API, yeah, to 3.5, 3.4. So 3.4 still supports both APIs. I don't know why what is replacement for the V2 API for HTTP metric, but if you use V3 API, you have grpc metrics.
Okay, and I can get the number of requests. It's pretty under heavy load. It's our production Kubernetes cluster, and it has a lot of requests. I cannot say how many, because I don't know which metric to check.
Okay.
You also can check proposals pending. So that's the proposals that will go to raft. So if you have a large outstanding number of proposals pending, that means the raft can keep up with processing them all. So that's maybe one more metric.
Yeah, there is always lag, but it's not so big, and it's constant across all members. So it seems to be.
Maybe from my side, I can also give some like information. So in the past, when or like my company ByteDance, when we're doing some evaluation for the FTD, and we actually saw that the latency for the I/O of the disk can significantly affect the performance of the not performance. It's more like the each the the request, like the time that takes for each request to finish. So that means when you have a large amount of requests, I think if you have a very slow disk, most probably the the thing that you will notice is that sorry, the per request, the time it takes to finish will be like larger, but the throughput, I think, is a little bit different. So the throughput itself might not be affected by a lot by the like disk performance, because in our case we're actually using NVMe SSD. We're trying to reduce we're trying to see the performance, and we realize that the or like request request from like the request like and response time, it is depends on it's not only depends on the CPU speed, but also depends on the the latency for your I/O latency of your disk. But the throughput, I think itself is a little bit different. So you probably need to distinguish between these two factors.
Yeah, I think I agree with what Wilson said. My main experience is on cloud, running etcd on cloud, and this is mostly like if you use SSDs that handles the latency, the only thing is just give it more IOPS. So like on cloud, you just need enough size, like you oversize the disk just to have enough throughput if you have hard UPS.
Yeah, in
Never
our
seen-
case, yeah, I got it. In our case, we use physical machines, and I tested disk using FIO utility, which recommended by IBM article. There is great article how to test your SSD if it's fast enough for etcd. And I realized actually we use it's shame, but we use consumer grade SSD disk, not enterprise. Some Samsung EVO, and they give 500 IOPS with latency 99 percentile for fsync, around 10 milliseconds, which is kind of critical border case. And
500 IOPS is not very good even for a consumer grade SSD.
yeah, taking in mind that load which we generate in this IBM article, it is one thread, so the queue depth is one also, and we do writes 2 kilobytes at once, and each write follows by fsync. So in this kind of one queue sequential writes, I think the yeah, it's it's quite slow. Yeah, and I did test on enterprise SSD in Intel One, and it gave me 3K IOPS for the same or profile for the same file profile. So there is big difference, but I cannot say exactly what to measure from etcd point of view. From disk point of view, I can see big difference. I can see this fsync latency is 10 milliseconds, but how etcd will misbehave, what to check more, I don't know.
Which version are you using?
3.4.
Yeah, I think 3.4 has some improvement on this, but still, I think if you have very slow SSD, then I think this part might not help you significantly. Yeah, I think in your case, if you try 3.3, you get like worse performance. So I think um, in 3.4 there are already some improvement done. So to improve the throughput, which basically cache some of the writes to the disk, and then commit them in batches, and which actually significantly reduce latency. But in your case, probably yeah. Later, let me take a look at your like the issue, and then see if I can provide anything from my side.
Yeah, thank you very much. There is just questions. It's not actually an issue. Thank you so much. Sorry for taking your time.
Yeah, no problem. Would be good, like, to have I think the main thing is that not everyone's experience is different. Like, I think your setup is pretty unique. If you have any point, like the static point, and you get some, it would be good to hear what you find out if you want to follow up on the issue, and maybe it could help other people. Yeah, like asking questions is good if we can share the knowledge and preserve it.
Yep, sure.
Okay, let's go to the next topic. Chao, do you want to?
Yeah, hi, Marie and other community members. So I just want to ask some quick feedback. So for the first issue, we discovered in one of our production cluster, we are doing a cluster update. And right after the member is added to the membership, we realized the new node just failed to bootstrap because of the local membership member count is not equal to the remote cluster membership member count, which means even after the member is added and get the response, when it bootstrapped, the member list is still 2. It's not so there is some still like a member list response, and I realized the 3.4 already fixed client member list is linearizable, but like in peer member handler, it's still like it is still not linearizable. It could return still member. And I submit a PR to fix it, but it turns out it's in growing cluster size from 1 to 2. It's expected to have a to not blocking the linearizable member list, which means in case the cluster size is growing from 1 to 2, there is no quorum. So in order to proceed, the peer member handler has to return the member list stored in memory, and it's not agreed on the in a quorum. So my question is, what do you guys think? Should we fix this? And I think what Ben is suggested also makes sense to me. If we add more retry in client, eventually it should be consistent. The member list should be consistent. Yeah.
Looks like I'm the only maintainer. I think the best is to ask Benjamin. He's on the issue. I've been not following, like it was surprising for me at the beginning that it's not linearizable, but yeah, it makes like the proposal that Benjamin wrote on here. I think it makes sense. I will need to double check, and I think I would just follow up with him directly. And the problem, he is not in good time zone to be present on this meeting, so it's I would try to reach out to him on GitHub. I can like give you an answer, like quickly an answer now.
I see. Yeah. We can follow up like in this issue or PR.
Okay. Any other topics that anyone wants to bring in?
Yeah, sorry to bother our time. So I have a second topic.
No problem. Didn't notice.
So I think it's a issue raised by another people, but I think it's also useful to one use case. Let's say we want to try to adding a member with partial data. I think it's a useful proposal, but I do think it's necessary for SED to panic if the new member has or the restarting member has truncated data or corrupted data.
This issue totally preceded me, so I have zero context on it. Like what's, I mean, I would suggest to reopen the issue or ask to reopen the issue and give why it's relevant. I have no context on issues like from 4 years ago, unfortunately. If anyone has wants to give their thoughts, that would be maybe help, but based on the fact that the issue was stale and no one responded for 3 years, it's hard to me to say if there is an interest.
I think we've seen this, but I think what it says there that you need to, I think, wipe out the disk is the solution, if I'm not mistaken. And what is the suggested proposal? So it will sync, it will basically manage it will clear the disk itself, the member, and then sync with the different one.
Yes. Yeah. So the proposal is to so don't panic on this commit index regression. Even if this member is already acknowledged, this index is persistent in disk. So instead of just panic, it could reject, or inform the leader this log index is not in the disk or it's lost. Can we go back and send any previous logs into to myself, basically to override a local copy of the war log?
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure, but my understanding is that maybe the idea was that if something goes wrong, just panic and let the operator sort of do the debugging, because if it's, let's say, overwrites it, then it's hard to maybe go back and see what happened. But that's just my assumption. Why it's, we can maybe discuss in the issue. Not 100% sure.
Yeah, I do understand the concern. If the disk for some reason the committed index is lost, we should just panic and make it explicit, make this error explicit. But some use cases, like adding a new member with some partial data, will panic in this case. And I know right now we are using a non-voting member, for example, a learner to catch up new leader and then promote to a functional member for adding a new member use case. And so our motivation is to improve the mean time to recover, basically to reduce data transit over the wire. So let's say if we can add a member with some partial data, that would be a great feature.
Okay, I'm a little bit confused. By partial data, you mean, I know it's stale, let's say really old
It could, yeah, for partial data, for example, I believe most of SED users configure periodic backup. Let's say we add a member with some backup.
Okay, so if my assumption is if you restart the backup and the member rejoins the cluster, it will read the snapshot, will get the snapshot, or maybe I'm missing something, but
yeah. So
you do a full there is a path for restoring from backup, and there is path for old members, and it should work. If it doesn't work that would be good to surface. But the main maybe problem, it's not the clearest, like easy path, because it requires administrative help. Like you mentioned, learner, you need, like administrator need to know what they're planning, because you would not want to do some automation on like member, like adding a member that doesn't have full data. Like this goes into like this complicated overall handling this. It's not clear to me how this member would behave differently if you joined him to cluster as a, yeah.
Yeah, so I would expect right now when joining a new member, later we'll send the DB snapshot to the new member. But what if we can recover or adding a member with some backup to reduce the time the data, the DB snapshot is transferred over the wire? Does that make sense?
So my understanding is that basically the solution will be to wipe the partial data. So let's say the member, the node tries to join, it has some partial data, and then it will panic right now. In that case, what we can do is to wipe it out and then sync the new data. And that's like, I haven't looked at this like too much, but the problem, well, not the problem, but just sort of philosophically, do we really want to do that? Because maybe in certain situations you want to have the data for investigation. So maybe the solution is to move it into some, but then sort of gets like, okay, move it into somewhere to preserve it, but then you can accumulate the data if you run into some bad situation. So I think it's more discussion. What is the, I also understand your point that, yeah, it would be nice to just like automatically start like, just like if there's a problem, just, proceed, automatically resolve it sort of, and still join. Is that, am I getting this correctly? Basically, the
Yeah.
solution would be to wipe out the partial data.
Yeah, I get the solution is to just remove this member, this bad member, and add a fresh new member with empty data.
No, but in your case, well, you're saying that like if let's say we okay, how to fix this. So what you're suggesting is that instead of panic, we just get the new snapshot, and but that basically means that we overwrite the existing partial data, correct? So
Yes.
we'll lose that state, and so we can go back and let's say look at it and understand why it was partial.
So, is anybody using a volume snapshot as a possible data protection strategy, or have people tried such things?
I'm not aware like of it. I think I mostly use the built-in etcd snapshots, like the story, the normal snapshotting of etcd, not volume snapshotting.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but Bogdan, I think there, I do think if we can have an option, maybe it's by default turn off, just preserve existing behavior. Maybe we can add some experiment to try adding a member with some SCD backup to improve the time to start a new member.
I mean, the problem I'm seeing here is the partial data, like for etcd, is the wall, like you have really stale wall, or you have cut the wall and you cannot recover the member because you don't know where the leader doesn't know where the member is. Yeah, it has some like data. And the second part is the member that is joining doesn't have up-to-date membership information. Like, you know that membership didn't change, but like etcd doesn't know that. So the only way, so the different way I think you're suggesting is, we have the DB, and DB has like, lots of keys, but there is no way to diff DB, or like it's a DAG. It's hard to know, like you would need to rebuild full DAG to diff it, and basically send already DAG to find the differences between them. Like, it seems also like non-trivial problem how you set, like, do and diffing and updating of bboat, but this is something I'm not an expert on bboat, so I cannot say that's even
Yeah. So actually, I've tried some workaround. Let's say I restarted all the etcd servers, so, and then the adding member can catch up and like a work functionally. And I think the reason is the leader we're lost to the we're reset the progress of all of the followers. So I'm just wondering if we can have if we can avoid this availability drop, and also can sync data to the new member.
I mean,
yeah, but I think we are
yeah, we are
taking too
out
much
of time.
time.
Yeah, please give the one, I think, overall note is this. I haven't seen this topic. I've looked at the list. I try to keep up to be prepared with the topic. All the topics today were added within last hour, so I had zero time to even read the context. And for for everyone's time, I think it's good to start from, email, or like propose to open up the back to let context, because discussion, like, the community is pretty big, the project is pretty big. We don't know what was what happened here some time ago, so it would be good to have start discussion before. I'm happy to look into this more, but it's I'm still not sure what is the use case, and propose a feature. If you propose a feature, describe what you want to achieve, we can discuss it if it's benefit, how we can get there. But for now, I cannot give you much of an answer. So thank you. Thank you for bringing this topic, because there's a lot of topics that we closed off because of staleness. But the reason for the staleness is that no one looked into that for so long. So if you revive the topic, I think we can really continue the discussion there on the issue.
Yeah, appreciate for the follow-ups.
Yeah, I think your argument is good. Like, your motivation why to do this is good. So I think, yeah, what Mark said, just comment on the issue, or maybe we can reopen.
Yeah, I add more context, especially the motivation.
Yeah. Okay. That's all. We are a little bit out of time. Sorry for that. Thanks everyone who attended. Hope to see you on the next meeting, and yeah, see you.
Yeah, thank you.